Hello, everyone. Today is April 21st, 2022. This is the Kubernetes storage SIG meeting. Today, we're going to go over the 1.24 planning spreadsheet. I think we have passed most of the deadlines now. The next one is GA, but 1.24 GA got delayed to May 3rd. And then we have a few things to discuss after we are regular planning. So let's just take a look of our spreadsheet. The first one is the CSI online offline resizing. Is Herman here?
Yeah, I'm here. So yeah, volume expansion went GA in 124 finally, and it's done. We have a blog post out that is being reviewed, and yeah.
Great, thank you. And the next one, recovering from resize failure.
This is still alpha. We'll try to move it beta in 125. So yeah.
Okay, thank you. Next one is issues related to assuming volumes and mount points. I'm not sure if Xing is here. Does anyone know the status? Or maybe Yang? Okay, so no update. Next one, so anyone know this? Yang, Xing, Emmanuel? All right, see no update. Next one is storage capacity tracking. Patrick? Okay, so yeah, I think that is similar to what we had last time. The conformance the conformance one is actually already merged. And blog basically just being reviewed. And external provisional changes, PRs, are just need to be reviewed. I'm not sure if Patrick has submitted all the PRs yet, but all the work that is left is in external provisional repo. Next one, CSI ephemeral volumes. Jonathan?
Yeah, that one, the GA move has moved to 125.
Okay, thank you. And next one is a volume group cap. So I'm still updating the cap. Next one is the CSI auto tree move ISCS driver. Is Humble here? No update. Next one is CSI auto tree move Samba CIFS driver to GA. Does anyone know status? Michelle, Matt? No update. Next one is PVC volume snapshot namespace transfer. Is Masaki or Mustafa here? Okay, we got an update from Masaki last time. We started discussing, but okay, so today I'll just say an update. Next one is CSI volume house, additional metrics. Yeah, so this one is done. The doc PR is merged, so down here. And the next one is CSI volume health programmatic response. So I pinned Nick. They have not started the design doc yet. So I just pinged him again to ask when they can start working on this. Next one is volume populator. Hey, Ben.
All of the beta work is done, except the blog is still in review.
So we probably can just mark this one as complete now, down here. Thank you. Next one is cozy. Is sit here. So I know the cap is still being reviewed. So. Okay. And the next one is the change block tracking. Is found here? Okay. Yeah, so this is actually have a good progress. So there are a couple of folks. So Fang is organizing meetings. And there's also Ilan, Sean, Dave. They are meeting regularly, doing a POC. So this is moving along. Next one is runtime assisted mounting. Steve here?
Yeah, this is the same status as before. The design is in progress.
Okay.
Making updates to the cap.
Thank you. And the next one is CS proxy for Windows transition to privileged containers. Do you also have an update, Deep, on this?
Yeah, I think this is going to basically go into 1.25 due to lack of cycles.
Okay. Thank you. Next one is a node expansion secret. Yeah, so this one is also delayed, moved to 1.25. And secure Linux. Yang here?
Yep, it slips to 125.
Thank you. Yeah. And system migration, core bugs and issues. Is there any update on this? Do we have Matt or Michelle Jave? No update. And next one is the system migration vSphere. So the status is the same as last time. Basically, we deprecated 67U3. Let's see. And next one is system migration Azure Disk. Okay, so this is done. We already marked this as done. Azure file as well. GC we marked as done. OpenStack is done. Okay. Self RBD, basically, yeah, this one got delayed. SafeFS also delayed. Portworx as well. So all of these three are delayed. So just say 1.25. Always owner reclaim policy. Do we have Deepak here? Okay. Right, so it's the same status as last time. Basically, we missed the test deadline, so moved to 125.
Yes.
Oh, okay, yeah, sorry. Any update from you?
No, same as last time.
Oh, next one is control volume mode conversion between source and target PVC. Is Ronak here?
Hey.
Hey.
So the status is multiple PRs were merged and a few are left for review. And I think I have some test PRs to be put out for review. And a lot of the documentation is out for review as well.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, we're still waiting for that doc PR to be merged. Okay. And blog, right, being reviewed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next one is the secret protection. And the next one, those two are related, in-use protection. Do we have a Masaki here? Okay, so just mark this one to move to 25, and this one is and non-graceful no shutdown. Yeah, so we have the doc PR is already merged. Blog is being reviewed, so we can mark this one as done as well. Okay, so and warning expansion for Stifle sets. Is Shalini here? Okay.
I had a meeting with her last week and we discussed the design a little bit. There's still, by the way, quite a few things to be ironed out in the design. So yeah, at least.
Great. Thanks for the update. All right. Now let's see. So that's all we have in this spreadsheet. Now we have a few items. Ipo, you want to talk about this?
Yeah, so basically with there's like a recent change in the scheduler around being able to provide a pre-filter result in the pre-filter stage. It's mostly used for the daemon set scheduling for node affinity right now. But I was kind of thinking like one of the thing we see a lot with large clusters is like, let's say if you have like a 4,000 node cluster and then like only maybe 500 of these nodes are, you know, eligible for node affinity for like a specific storage class. Then what would happen is if there's like a lot of taints and stuff, like it's very difficult for the person to figure out like why the pod is not scheduling, because it's like all the nodes are kind of mixed together and it's not specific to only like the eligible nodes for because of the PV node affinity. So the PR I raised here is like a very simple change, which is just moving the like the node affinity for PVs like to the pre-filter and leveraging that instead. But I think the pushback I got from scheduling side is like ideally they don't want to do the multi-node evaluation in pre-filter and they should only do that in filter. So my other idea that kind of came out of this was like, is it possible to only leverage this for local PVs because local PV is only like tied to one specific node? So I kind of just want to pitch this like, do we have any standard around how to define the PV node affinity for local PVs? Like, is it using like a field selector or is it using like, for example, label selector with only one node kind of thing? Because like we could make it cover those cases and have like this feature available for like local PV only.
Currently, the local PVs, they use label selector and they select on hostname label. But it's not like written. It can be changed in the future. You could have a local PV that's local to several nodes. The API allows that.
Right, yeah. Like I guess with the SIG local static provisioner, it's using the node affinity label selector to a single node. But I don't know if there's other CSI plugins that are using like field selector on spec node name or something like that. But
no, I think everybody uses the local selector, and if they use something else, then like, okay, the prefilter will not work, but still it's good to have this to speed up the static provisioner that we have.
yeah, I'm happy to like have a separate PR just for leveraging for just the local case with the single kind of node label selector.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's all I wanted to confirm basically.
Like, yeah, I'm thinking like the local volumes, they don't have anything special. They just have a regular node selector. So it's weird to have a special case in the scheduler for local volumes, while the same node affinity and similar labels are used in the other CSI drivers, like for zones and regions and this kind of stuff. Like, it's kind of weird to have it just for local volumes. They don't use anything special. They use the same affinity field as the other volumes.
I think from SIG scheduling side, the pushback I got is like if we can evaluate this in O1, which is just looking up, because in local case it's simple, we just look up the single node selector. But for like more complicated node selector matches, then it's probably not going to be O1 unless we create some fancy data structure. So I think that was kind of what I thought is maybe we start with just making this for local. But as your point around, it's really only covering this specific type of volume.
Okay.
Well, this would still optimize it for something like AWS or EBS, right? Where you have availability zones. So only the set of nodes that can satisfy the availability zone affinity will get through the pre-filter result, is it?
Yeah, I think the pushback from SIG scheduling is because that could be more complicated node selector mechanisms, and that ends up just being evaluating all the nodes to kind of trim that down. And their argument is like that should really be done in filter and not pre-filter. So I'm happy to kind of rework a separate PR for in volume binding to just cover the local case, and then can probably put it up for review.
So this is it's like a small feature, right? Should this also have a cap, just to explain what you're trying to enhance here?
Yeah, I can also do a cap as well. I think when I talked to the SIG scheduling co-chair, he was saying if it's just volume binding plugin, then it maybe doesn't need a cap, but I can also submit a cap for the local case as well. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, anything else about this? All right, thank you. Okay, so I submitted a issue to archive the sub-projects that we discussed earlier. And also, I think last time we talked about this, we possibly have a small meetup at the Contributor Summit at KubeCon EU. So if you are interested attending, then here's a link for registering for the Contributor Summit. Ibo, you have another issue here. You want to talk about this?
Yeah, so this one is, so right now there's a hard-coded 2-minute for the CSI node client in Kubelet. So the context timeout is set to 2 minutes right now. So I was just thinking if it makes sense to make it a parameter. I don't know how everyone feels about more parameters in the kubelet, but like that will allow this to be kind of configurable based on like what like the kind of volumes that are enabled or CSI plugins are enabled.
Okay.
I just wanted to get an opinion whether it makes sense. How
is there a
folks.
specific issue that you're running into that you're trying to resolve, or this is more opportunistic?
So the one specific case we saw around this was it was fixed in 120, but because we were running off an older version. But like basically, what ended up happening is for like a specific volume that consists of a lot of files, the mount took a bit of time, so it kind of exceeded the 2 minute. And then because of the 119 version we were running, it wasn't like idempotent. So when it was trying to do the retry, the backend like in between kubelet was retrying, and then the backend kind of plugin actually finished the mounting. So when kubelet retried, it looked at it and says, oh, like it's mounted already. So I'm not going to do anything. So it didn't really handle the SE Linux properly. So then we did not really kind of propagate down the SE Linux to containerd to do the labeling essentially. So this was just like, if you make that configurable, then you can go through that mounting in one try instead of multiple tries.
So my 2 cents on kind of adding more knobs to the Kubernetes is basically we should avoid that as much as possible. Don't expose options to users unless we absolutely have to. Ideally, we make the right decision on behalf of the user. And in this case, hard-coded is probably not, best. I think, like you said, it might be nice to be able to negotiate this with the CSI driver. So if we want to do something here, if we want to make a change, I think it would be worth thinking about how, a kubelet and CSI driver could negotiate a timeout that works for that driver and then make it dynamic. But I would avoid kind of brute force approach of just, hey, let's expose a flag to the user. Because then you'll end up with a bunch of CSI drivers saying, hey, customer, go change this flag on your Kubernetes kubelet, and that's not really viable.
So like if it's a flag in the CSI driver itself, would that be?
So I'm not sure how we would want to do this. Some way to programmatically negotiate between the CSI driver and kubelet to say, here's what the timeout should be. And if, maybe it can be a new call that's optional. And if not specified, then the default is 2 minutes.
So the distributed provisioner today is using a parameter, like you can pass the timeout when you configure it, and I think it defaults to 10 seconds right now. So this is for like the controller CSI calls. But I guess
got it. Yeah. And so I think that may be another place where we could, if we go down this path, allow for a configuration of all of these different parameters. But effectively, like at a high level, my feedback would be avoid making this the user's problem. It's not the user's problem. This is a problem between Kubernetes and the CSI driver. And if we want to make any changes here, it should really, we should make advanced kind of negotiation logic for negotiating the timeouts, if anything.
Does the
sorry.
Does the lower timeout also masks the underlying problem in kubelet, a bug that we should fix anyway?
So the issue we ran into was fixed already in 120. It was just this was kind of like I was looking at the code and I just saw this and I thought it might be more flexible. But like I see the point around kind of not making that something that users should need to kind of think about, I guess. Yeah.
All the sidecars that we have, they have configurable timeouts for CSI calls. So I can definitely see there is some deficit when kubelet makes the call. But all the sidecars are configured and shipped by the CSI driver vendor, not by the user, the cluster. So I wonder if we could make some node registrar parameter that would configure kubelet in some way.
I guess
Yeah,
how
that would be. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just saying, how would that? I guess in that case, would you need some way to configure the controller side as well then? Because I feel like they should be the same, right? Or...
The controller side is already configurable. Every sidecar has a timeout. Like the
Could it just
timeout.
be another field on the CSI driver CRD that the kubelet could read and then interpret?
It could be, but I'm not a fan of new crazy timeouts in the API.
But I mean, it's the kind of thing that the deployer has control over, and you can code it per CSI driver. So if you have multiple CSI drivers and they want different timeouts, you can get different timeouts for different drivers. It does feel weird to put it into an API object, but
yeah, that's why I suggested the registrar. There is a tiny protocol between the registrar and kubelet. They exchange the driver name. They exchange the driver name, and they exchange also the location of the socket. So they could also exchange the timeout for that driver.
Yeah, I didn't realize what you were suggesting before. That does sound nicer.
I guess with this case, you would have this controller kind of sidecars being configurable via like a parameter, but then on the node side here, we would have each driver communicate its timeout to the kubelet. I feel like that's a little different, but
no, not the drivers, the registrar.
Yeah.
So it's the same basically.
The node get info call, right?
Or I don't remember how it's called.
Node get info, something like that.
Yeah, the one that reports the topology.
No CSI call.
No CSI.
The driver registrar call. There is the registrar and kubelet, they exchange some GRPC messages about where is the socket of the CSI driver, basically.
Yeah, there's effectively a GRPC that is not CSI. It's defined by Kubernetes for different types of device plugins, and we specify one for CSI drivers, and that's the one that Jan's talking about. So it's effectively internal to Kubernetes, and we can modify it pretty easily.
But it will also affect like GPU registration and whatnot.
No, I think the way that it's structured is that you can have different fields for different types of plugins. So CSI plugins have a set of fields, and GPU plugins have a different set of fields.
But what about in node get info? Isn't that also a place that we could have the set of information?
I think the question really is do we want to pipe this all the way to the CSI driver itself, or kind of handle it on the Kubernetes side? And I think with the Jan suggestion, you can actually handle it on the Kubernetes side without having to pipe it all the way to the CSI interface. It's still coming from the driver, and it's going over a gRPC interface, just not the CSI interface.
So essentially, we would configure the node registrar with a parameter that's configurable, and then that would essentially pass that down to kubelet, right?
Yep.
And then by default, it would be
Yep.
2 minutes. Okay.
That's right.
Yeah.
And we just need to make sure we do it in a backwards compatible way for drivers that don't have that.
Yeah, that sounds good to me. Would I need to like submit a cap for this?
Yeah, that'll be good actually. This will be a change that affects all the drivers, right? So
Okay.
Do we want to go through alpha, beta, GA? It seems like too much to me.
but it's a it's a enhancement, right? So it should go through that.
All right. All right.
So it could probably go quicker rather than maybe one release alpha and then next will be beta. Don't have to wait for a couple releases if we are good with this change.
Okay.
Great. Thanks for the feedback.
Thank you. Okay, so I see Gary added a talk here. Gary, you want to talk about this? Is Gary here?
Yeah, hi.
Hi.
Yeah, thank you. As a quick background, the Oracle file system has a cache consistency model that can survive a reboot. So our clients generally have a very large cache that's associated with a disk. Often associated with a disk that gets mounted. We have a kernel driver that's being installed using as a special resource with the special resource operator in OpenShift. Anyway,
I'm sorry.
we had.
Is there a cap? You said, is there a cap? You have a link to something? What?
No, I couldn't find. I just saw a quick mention to it, and there was no follow up. I wasn't in the January meeting. So anyway, the simple use case is that I have my client wants to use local volumes, for the cache that's being used by our kernel module. And they have to be deployed as daemon sets, and there's no way to realistically map a local volume to a daemon set, which is why I came across what Ritesh was talking about. The alternative is kind of implement the equivalent of local volume sets as an index container in my kernel driver pod. But anyway, does anybody know if any movements are made on this daemon set, stateful set?
I have not seen a cap. Has anyone seen this? Yeah, I remember there was some discussion about it, but
yeah, if you look at the January 15th, it's the
right. I remember there was some discussion. I believe I do remember there was such a discussion, but I don't remember seeing any cap.
I couldn't find it.
Anyone else seen a cap on this? I don't remember seeing that.
I don't know Ritesh, so I couldn't reach out to him to see if he followed up.
Yeah, I also don't know him. I remember he showed up and talked about this, but does anyone know? Yeah, I think it. Do you remember the? Yeah, okay, this one, right? Is this the one?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think so.
But after that, okay. But after that, I don't see any. Yeah. Okay. I don't see any update after that. Basically, I don't know who is Ritesh. Does anyone else know?
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm now leaning towards just not using local volumes and just re-implementing the equivalent of local volumes in an init container. Since I'm installing a kernel module, I have tons of permission.
Okay.
Anybody have any comments, criticisms about just failing on local volumes for something that's deployed on each node as a daemon set? Okay.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, so if anybody know who is Ritesh, can ping us, ping Gary. Yeah, I don't know, lost track of this one. I've not heard about this one after that.
Yeah, I understand. If nobody knows Ritesh, I just, it's a dead end. Okay, thank you.
As we do 125 planning, and if anyone's interested in picking this up, might be a good time to think about this again.
Yeah, it's been discussed way back as far back as 2017, and I don't think there's enough use cases for people to care, and it looks like it's probably complicated to implement.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah. So I'll just fail and implement. Yeah, I'll just format the disks in my init container and not use local volumes.
Okay. Thank you for bringing this up.
Thanks for the feedback.
And I think that's all we have for today. Anything else? If not, that's it for today. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you.